That's a good point.
Okay,
Yep,
I'll
that's a
start. We'll see where
really
we.
good point. So Martin has turned on the recording. So welcome to Coffee with a Purpose, everyone. Thank God it's Coffee with a Purpose and not Real Coffee with Scott Adams. Jeez, man, total separate topic there. But we're welcoming Kristen Pope to our group this morning. Kristen, as you know, hopefully you know, is running for one of the two open seats on select board, one of four candidates for those two seats. And so we will be giving the bulk of the hour to her to introduce her to us, and then have some open-ended questions and answers. But while we before we do that, let's do our usual customary brief introduction so that Kristen gets a chance to see what our passions are and what drives us. And I just urge us to be as brief as possible so we can allot as much time to Kristen as possible. However, before we do that, we also have to note a very important occasion. Today is the 90th birthday of our very own Elaine Oster, who is appearing in the upper right character.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
Thank you.
Yeah, so this usual results in chaos, but I think it's worth the attempt of us singing happy birthday to Elaine, so it ought to be good for a hoot anyway. So on a one and a two. Happy
Happy
birthday.
birthday to you.
Happy
Happy birthday to
Happy
you.
birthday.
Happy
Birthday.
Dear
Birthday
birthday.
to you.
All right.
Well, that's
She's a
fine.
jolly good woman, for she's a jolly good woman, for
Yeah.
she's a jolly good woman, which nobody can deny.
Absolutely. Unanimous consent on that, I believe.
Yes.
All right. Well, let's start off with introductions. And although it says J Ball, we know it is in fact Ricky Ball. So Ricky, you want to say?
Okay, since I'm not able to vote for you, I will make my introduction very short. I'm Ricky Ball. I was the first woman to get the job that you're looking to fill. Back in 1975, I served 3 terms. I'm a former town meeting member for 35 years. I'm on the Housing Authority for 12. And I miss you all. I wish I were on the ground, part of the campaign, but move on to people who can be.
Thank you, Ricky. Kristen, Ricky lives in Canton now, I believe.
Yeah, after 63 years, after 63 years in Navy.
Yeah.
So I'm still able to thank you. Have a voice.
And Martin?
I'm Martin Kessel, and we were just discussing our family moved to Natick in 1956, but it hasn't been totally continuous since that time, but most of it. And I've been on town meeting for more than 20 years and chair of the Open Space Committee for also more than 20 years. So a number of other various committees in the process, but one of the activists, I guess.
Thanks, Martin. Elaine, birthday girl?
Elaine Ostroff. I'm relatively new to Natick. My son and his family have lived here for a long time. I'm a little giddy because today is an enormous birthday for me. So, and I love being part of this group. I look forward to Monday mornings. Thank you.
Thanks, Elaine. Kathleen.
Hi. Yeah, I'm Kathleen Donovan. I've lived in Natick since 1990, which makes me a newbie compared to some of the people on the group. I am a retired academic librarian, and my involvement with town government is on the Library Board of Trustees. I've been a trustee at the Morse Institute Library for 23 years now, and I'm a candidate for re-election.
Great. Thanks, Kathleen. Carrie?
Hi, good morning, Kristen. Carrie Butfield, I've been here and 20 years this spring, town meeting member, concerned environmentalist, and I'm probably going to go off screen pretty soon. I'm a little under the weather and probably look hideous, but looking forward to hearing what you have to say. So
Thanks, Carrie. Carol. You're on mute, Carol. There you go.
Thank you. Good morning. Very nice to meet you. And I'm Carol Berkowitz, and I've lived in Natick over 50 years. I'm a town meeting member. I live on Lake Cochituate, do a lot of work guiding the lake and just basically being outdoors, collecting trash and trying to keep Natick beautiful. So nice to meet you.
Thanks, Carol. Bill.
Hi, Bill Ramage here. Another Keep Natick Beautiful Pat Conaway disciple. I work at Pegan Cove, collecting trash and cleaning up as best I can, working on invasives. Interested in town government. I'm a member of town meeting up for re-election, and there are 10 folks vying for 6 slots. So I feel your pain or your anxiety about trying to get on the select board and wish you well. So that's it.
Thanks, Bill. Pat.
Good morning. Nice to see you, Kristen, and happy birthday, Elaine. Just briefly, I kind of the Keep Natick Beautiful founder, and sort of Natick's trash and trails guy, community service, etc. So very delighted to be here and hear what you have to say.
Thanks, Pat. Rick.
Pat could also say that he's the moderator of the Select Board Green Forum. Thank you, Pat. I'm Rick. I've been here now exactly 5 years. Love Natick, came from Needham, got involved through CWAP, love CWAP, and joined town meeting last year, and I've been part of Eco Natick with Bill and others, Sarah and others, since we started that about a year ago, and looking forward to another Earth Day all around town, and also to our climate conversations with forums with Kristen and others on Tuesday next week, Tuesday at 7 o'clock next week. So join us all if you haven't already got the message. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Rick.
And thanks for being here. Hi, Kristen, and thanks for being here, and happy birthday, Elaine.
Sally.
Good morning. Hi, Kristen, and all. I came in 2017 to Natick from San Diego, California, and I haven't regretted a moment of it. This is a happening place, and this Coffee with a Purpose, I kind of helped launch it with Pat. I'm part of the coffee. He's got the purpose. So I could arrange, the tables and things, but Pat really spearheaded it. And now Doug and Sarah and Martin are just doing marvelous things with this conversation each Monday morning. And I'm very, very, when I moved in, I lived right across the hall from Elaine. She and I had apartments right in the same hall. We called it the dormitory. So it's very nice to celebrate your birthday today. And this is a great group. And Kristen, we really look forward to your contribution and your leadership. So thanks for being here.
Thanks, Sally. Tom.
Kristen, nice to see you again. I've been a resident of Natick for about 33 years. Came on the town meeting spring of last year, and looking forward to this year's adventure. And I'm a racial activist, a climate activist, along with Rick, belong to 250 Mass Metro West, and really looking forward to hearing what you got to say today. So thanks for coming.
Thanks, Tom. Catherine? Just as you're about to take your coffee there.
Good morning, Natick Select Board, and Kristen and I know each other well, so I Won't take time introducing. Most of you know me. And I'm just glad to join you on video this morning.
Great, thank you. And Laura, I see you coming back onto the screen. Want to introduce yourself? You're on mute. You got to come off mute. Nope. There you go.
No, I'm fine. We've been here for 56 years, active in our younger years, less active now. I'm a member of the Native Garden Club and a town meeting member.
Okay, thanks, Laura. Brindley?
Good morning. Hi, Kristen. So happy to see you here this morning. I have been a Natick resident for almost 23 years. My husband's been here over 50. I served on the Pay As You Throw task force, part of what brought us the Blue Bags program in trash. I was a recycling committee member for over 10 years, working on that. I'm a current town meeting member, also up for re-election. And just active participant in the town and love Coffee with a Purpose and everybody on it and what we do every Monday morning. And I'm really glad you're here. Thanks. And happy birthday, Elaine.
And I know Brindley has a Kristen Pope sign, lawn sign. So, Sarah.
Hi, I'm Sarah. Also a longtime town meeting member. I am a retired geologist. I spent my career doing hazardous waste site assessments. So I have a long time interest in environmental issues. I guess that's all I'll say for now. And happy birthday, Elaine, and welcome, Kristen.
Great. And I moderate the group. I'll do most of my volunteer work associated with the Congregational Church right down there in the center of town. Kristen, we will turn it over to you. Take as much time as you'd like. If you want to share your screen, you can do that too. And then we'll do questions and answers, and we'll try to use the raise hand function if to the extent that people can do that. So over to you.
Oh, thank you so much, Doug. Thank you, everybody, for such a warm welcome. Happy birthday, Elaine. I saw that Paul Carew joined us just recently, and he didn't get an opportunity to.
Oh, I'm sorry.
He just joined.
Yeah.
So I would love to give him the space.
You got to come off mute, Paul. Thanks for noticing that, Kristen.
Thank you, Kristen. Good morning, Paul Carew. I'm Director of Veteran Services for the towns of Natick and Dover. I've been here 13 years next month. I've been working with veterans now for over 40 years. I'm nationally accredited. I do suicide education, awareness, prevention work. I'm part of the Middlesex County Veterans Treatment Court. I love helping other veterans and other people, so that's just the way I am. And welcome aboard, Kristen.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to virtually meet each and every one of you. Thank you for all that you do for Natick. I like to say, my family who moved here in 2017 are the beneficiaries of so much of your work and your sacrifice and your love and your care. I do want to recognize Ms. Ricky Ball because you are an absolute trailblazer and a pioneer. And so I just want to say thank you for breaking a glass ceiling and for being, just for using your life to serve. I feel really, really honored to meet you in this way. So thank you. Again, a bit about me. My name is Kristen Pope, and I moved to Natick with my husband at the time in 2017. We moved from South Boston. And we always knew that we would move to a suburban area to raise a family. And at the time, I was big and pregnant and, excited to be a mom, excited. We like to say we planted bricks before we planted roots, because before Lily was born, my daughter's name is Lily, before she was born, we purchased a brick in her name at the Lilja School. There was a fundraising campaign. And so there was an opportunity to purchase a brick. And so we did that. And and she's a kindergartner there, but the brick says something like, we're eagerly expecting your arrival. So, you know, we were serious and very eager to move to Natick. Natick for us just checked so many boxes. The commuter rail, which we needed at the time when we moved here, we were a one-car couple. And so we needed the commuter rail. My husband commuted into the city with the rail into Boston to work. And we were looking for good schools and looking for a place that had, you know, pretty good proximity to the city. And looking for, you know, kind of like a bustling downtown. And we just found so many of those things. We found a welcoming atmosphere in moving to Natick. I live not far from your beautiful children, Elaine. I live a couple blocks over from Jean and Josh. I was talking to Jean. We were outside talking for like an hour yesterday outside, and we regretted it slightly because our toes were frozen. But I love them. And they're, you know, Jean and Josh, they're one of the reasons why this neighborhood has been so welcoming for us. We live in the Jennings Pond neighborhood off of Oak Street. And so Natick has been just extremely welcoming, you know, for us as a family. And we jumped right in, you know, when we got here. In 2020, I was appointed to the personnel board. My husband was appointed to the FinCom. That same year, I was asked to be an advisor to a youth-led organization called Rise Natick, focused on anti-racist values and anti-racist principles. You know, above and beyond what we do in Natick, I also serve on the board of directors for the United Way, Tri-County, which is based in Framingham. I've served on a women's leadership board called Rise Women's Leadership. Professionally, I am a storyteller. And that's my layperson's way for being a journalist. I'm a journalist. I went to school to be a journalist. And so the thing that I love most is human stories. And I believe that human stories are deeply important in order for us to create an environment where everybody is seen and heard and well represented. I know that's a challenge that some of us are aware of and experience here in town, is that we need for more people to be represented in town, more people of different economic backgrounds, different life experiences. We need additional representation in our town government, at our boards, and just representing in town. And so I believe that understanding people's stories is the way in which we do that. It's the way in which we bring people to the forefront, make people feel like they belong here and like they are welcome here. So most of my career has been spent either writing or as a television journalist. I was a television broadcaster, television news broadcaster for a decade. And now I manage the social media strategy for the Division of Continuing Education at Harvard University. I'm also a business owner. I've owned a production company for 10 years, Hope Productions. And with my company, I create PSAs for other companies. I've created a curriculum to help journalists become better storytellers. I license that curriculum to different nonprofits around the country. I have clients as far as Tokyo and New York. And I love this work. I love this work because I love to just empower the next generation of storytellers. I also train entrepreneurs who are looking for more media in their business. And so at a very critical time in 2020, my business pivoted. We were very hyper-focused on content creation. But as the pandemic continued to ensue, it was necessary that we find additional streams of revenue. And so during that time, my team and I were able to take on some major contracts that tripled our revenue in a short amount of time. And so I believe that one of my strengths towards the select board is understanding growth and smart growth and quick pivoting in business. Also, as a communicator, my ability to listen and connect the dots and to distribute information in a way that people can receive it and people can feel as though they were heard is one of my strengths. On the personnel board, I've had the opportunity to help develop a lot of the roles that we see over the last 3.5 years. And so, and to also, work with the team to set the pay plan. We hope is, a competitive pay plan for municipal work to attract the best talent that Boston has or beyond to our town, to our workforce. So I am excited to look for ways to create additional smart growth in our business community. I'm excited for ways to look for affordable housing for those who need it, and to prioritize areas where we can rezone for mixed use housing, and to make sure that we continue to maintain that economic diversity that resides in our town. There's a woman right now who reached out to me and to protect her identity, I'll keep that private, but who reached out because her affordable housing is in threat. And she was very, as you can imagine, she's very distressed. And I am deeply heartened in trying to walk her through some ways in which she can make sure she's recertified, make sure that she has what she needs to remain in her housing, because I'm fortunate that I'm not in threat of losing my home. But beyond that, she's not just in threat of losing her home, she's a renter. So there's, it's not a person who's even, maybe going to have equity to pull out of their home. It's a person who, really is a part of that, the third in our community that is at or below the poverty line. And so keeping in mind that that population is here in Natick, while we are quite an affluent town, we have people who are, who are struggling and who need help. And so I look forward to the ways in which we will deepen and expand affordable housing for those who want to live and dwell in Natick. As an interviewer, I'm not used to talking this long without having a conversation. I'm a conversationalist, so I don't intend to just talk to you. I would love to talk with you and open the space for questions. I'll just say this transparently. I've never had a cup of coffee before in my life. I've never had a cup of coffee before. I see you, Paul. I've never had a cup of coffee before. I just, I don't know. I just haven't taken the dive. Every morning I have a cup of lemon water, of warm lemon water. It's a good system flush, but I've never taken the plunge into coffee. So I even more appreciate you welcoming me as someone who's never had coffee before.
That's great. Well, why don't I open it up with one question, and I'm sure people have lots of others. I don't know, just kind of a standard one of what would you see maybe as one of the biggest challenges for the select board in the year ahead? Like, if you get elected to the position, where do you see the first controversial issue, or the bulk of your time, or the, something that's going to need a lot of energy and care?
Gosh, that is a tough question, because there are a number of issues. I mean, I think I could list that the budget is one of those issues, making sure that the budget is balanced. Just not long ago, we were looking at or talking about an override. And while the committee does not perceive that to be the case or necessary in 2024, I think if you're coming that close to it, unless we have a superior surplus, then it's still kind of it's still resonating. You know, it's still there that we have to consider that. So I would say that budget is the first thing. And with that, my thought as a, you know, in joining as a member of the select board would be to think about the ways of growth and smart business growth that would keep our taxes low, but continue to bring opportunities to Natick. Gosh, that's tough, Doug, because I want to start making a list. I want to go down the list of the things that I think are, you know, are going to, that our select board is going to be facing.
Yeah. I mean, are there particular areas where you see good opportunities for smart business growth? I mean, you know, we've benefited hugely by the previous success of the Natick Mall, and then some, you know, some of our large technology-based companies, but certainly the mall retail is, you know, it's a hurting place these days.
Yeah, I talked to the manager and she said there's 17 businesses coming to Natick Mall, which is exciting. 17 businesses are coming. 100,000 square feet is under construction or going to be under construction. And so I believe that while they're still in recovery, those are great signs. Those are great signs that that businesses are coming to Natick. Our Natick Center, I mean, really, there's this opportunity for destination in our Natick Center. And there is a plan right now for incubator businesses to come and kind of do short-term leases to diversify the type of businesses we have, the type of business owners that are able to come to Natick, get a feel for us. There are opportunities at the Golden Triangle, I think in Sherwood Plaza. And so I believe that there's a number of places where smart business growth, attracting businesses is possible. And I believe there's an appetite for it and a desire to see it happen.
Good. Pat, I see you've got your hand up. Just got to come off mute.
Yeah, thank you. I wanted to just ask Kristen, I really enjoyed your presentation and I've gone to your website and very, you know, you're a good communicator. What I was curious about is Natick, along with a lot of the other wealthy suburbs here in Metro West, are attempting to become more diversified, you know, and you mentioned the affordable housing and issues and how we actually have a number of people in our town who are not experiencing, you know, the wealth of maybe a middle-class life. So I was just curious, what do you think's responsibility of the select board to really push this along, this diversity and making our town, you know, less of a white wealthy suburb?
That's an excellent question. It is one that I am deeply invested in. If you wouldn't mind, Pat, I want to take a side path towards your answer. You know, my husband and I don't take for granted that we're both able to serve on town boards. It's a needed sacrifice that we make. When he first joined FinCom, we realized we were going to have to get some additional care. And we don't have family who resides here. So we hired childcare to pitch in with Lily and you know, maybe cook a meal here and there. We even had a friend who said, if your husband joins FinCom, I will bring you dinner. And she did. His very first week, she brought us dinner because she said, I know that this is a big commitment. And so I say that to say we just don't take for granted the ability to have resources to step up. But we know that everybody does not have that as a resource. And, you know, some part of it, Pat, is very systemic. Having the economics to move to an affluent suburb is something that honestly, it even goes deeper than Natick. You know, it goes into, you know, salaries, wages,
Mhm.
closing wage gaps, even here in Natick, you know, making sure, I think as part of the personnel board, making sure that our wages are competitive. When we discuss the pay plan, I'm very vocal about roles that we're kind of on the fence, like, should we grade it a 4 or should we grade it a 5? And I'm like, look at this job description, it needs to be a 5. But I also know that if we're going to be able to attract people to live in Natick, they have to be able to afford to live here. And people want to live closer to where they work, especially now, because inflation means that your oil prices are higher, your gas prices are higher. And I think we've realized that, you know, after the pandemic, our time is so precious. People, you know, to spend an hour plus commuting to a job is taxing. And then all of the systemic things that play into that, maybe then now you need additional childcare because you have to, and then that's an expense. If a family has to spend a ton of time commuting or has to work an additional job to make up for what they're not making on their main job, all of those things are really systemic, but is where Natick can support that, I believe, is creating opportunities for more people of color to participate in town government. The reason I say that is because when people see that the town welcomes diversity at the table, then they say, oh, my voice is heard here. People are, they're welcoming to my voice. And to me as a family at the decision, when decisions are handed down. And so while that seems small, that's a big shift. That's a big shift to then attract people here, and then the pay, being able for people to afford to live here. And that's not just a Natick, responsibility. That's a state and regional responsibility, but we can do something about it here as we set the pay plan from a personnel standpoint. And so those are two things I would say that could really benefit. And then affordable housing, as we talked about, affordable housing. You know, the person that I'm talking about is a woman of color who is experiencing housing insecurity right now. And so making sure that people who are experiencing poverty or experiencing insecurities, that we have, and we do, I'm going to say that we have so many wonderful services here. I mean, I have found out in this process, I found out about, you know, the ways in which you can get help with your property taxes, the ways in which you can get help with your utility bills, the ways that you can get help with your, you know, through the service council, with your rent. We provide a lot of great services. And I think, so in my wheelhouse, communications, making sure that people know about these services. If we have them, let's make sure that people know about them so that they don't feel alone. I believe it's easy to feel othered when you could live in a place that has great wealth, but you're on the fringe of that. So at the very least, let's do a great job of getting the information to the people that need it most. And help and doing that as a service. I hope that answered your question, Pat. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for that. Rick, you've got your hand up. Got to come off mute, Rick.
Yeah, following up on this thread in the conversation, I think we're very lucky to have you. We're very lucky to have you in town government. And I imagine that you can be kind of an ambassador, not to load more expectations on you than is realistic. So, but you know, a part of it still in my church in Needham that we were, you know, involved with for over 30 years. We've been involved in an anti-racist, you know, coursework and brainstorming on how can a town like that become more welcoming. And I'm wondering what ideas, you just spilled some good ideas. Two things that have occurred to us that are obstacles is that there are very few Black-owned businesses out here in the suburbs, or perhaps there are more than I know about, and you can help inform us of that. But, you know, we're trying to grow, we're trying to attract businesses. I don't know if that plays a role in also, you know, helping to build diversity in the long term in the town. But I'm curious what you think and whether if you're still involved in a church in town, that this topic of conversation comes up at all. That's what made me think of the word ambassador. So sorry for the rambling question. I know you'll make sense of it and offer something intelligent for other people to listen to. So I'll just shut up now.
I know, Rick, thank you. Thank you for that question. That's a tremendous question, because so much of being able to thrive and survive in a place like Natick or in suburbia is economic empowerment. And for the Black community, that has been, a centuries long struggle, is economic empowerment. Social capital is great, and social empowerment is great. But if it lacks economic empowerment, then you don't really have a base for foundation. The point that you brought up about businesses is huge. I'm a Black-owned business. I'm a Black-owned entrepreneur. I work out of my home, but I know other Black-owned businesses here in Natick that are not brick and mortar. So as far as people know, they're not represented in town, and that does make a difference. Athena Pandolf and the owner of Metro Pets were at the select board meeting recently and talked about this space that they have, that they're going to prioritize BIPOC businesses that are fairly new, to come to these spaces and be able to set up shop, to have maybe 3 to 12-month leases. I will, share this. My business won a $25,000 grant from the Boston Celtics in 2021. It was transformational, because one of the things that I needed was to automate my systems. And so with that, I was able to hire a contractor to automate my systems. And it paid her entire contract. So, as businesses grow, you need to be able to scale, but in order to scale, you need more money. And so often, and I'm not saying anything that's emotional based. The stats show that Black businesses and specifically Black women-owned businesses are most underfunded. They're statistically most underfunded. So, you take a corporation like Amazon, where, venture capitalists are just dumping money into it, and it's not even profitable for the first 10 years. And you take a Black-owned business who's really living off of what they catch and no additional income, it's almost an impossible juxtaposition. And so having businesses be able to thrive and sustain in business, in Natick, and one of the things that I believe is for the tax rate to remain what it is, to remain single between resident and business, because it is a tax rate that hopefully is competitive and will attract businesses here that can stay here. I think I'll stop there, but I hope.
Sure. Sarah, you've got a question.
I'm trying to formulate it into a question, but sort of some commentary. I am a person who loves to synthesize things, to see how so many things are interrelated. And as the conversation has been progressing, I've been thinking about my passion for the environment, and certainly from the work I did with hazardous waste sites, that's so much an issue that affects the non-white community and the lower income community. So that's tilted over into an interest in environmental justice as well, and the affordable housing issue and sustainability. And I'm thinking about a couple of things that are headed in our direction here in Natick. One is this new program that the state is requiring for development of more dense residential development near places that have MBTA stations. I forget what this thing is called, but have you
The MBTA Communities Act, I believe it is.
yeah.
Yes.
And there's also another program that the state is launching to have a stepped up building code to make things more sustainable. And I'm, as I say, I'm not sure exactly how I'm formulating a question here, but I see some opportunity to really, for Natick to really take some leadership of trying to integrate this whole package of making sustainable, affordable housing that will enable people to live, to attract a more diverse community and to allow our children to be able to afford to live here and things like that. And I guess I'm having a hard time formulating this as a question beyond kind of throwing it out there for your consideration, that it seems like a time when, it require pulling a lot of stuff together, but just, I don't know. Sorry for rambling, but.
No, Sarah, no apologies at all. I absolutely love what you said, because you're synthesizing took it to the systemic level. Like all of these systems bleeding into one another, kind of like in our healthcare system, you fix one thing to break another thing. And what we're trying to do is put something together that doesn't break, that is sustainable, that withstands. And every piece of this is, from the economic to the health, to the housing, to the business, to the community, like they're all connected and coming together. And I think looking at it from that broad base, that it's like, it's not just this issue over here. That issue directly impacts this issue over here. And you're so right. There's communities that, we're fortunate not to live in a food desert or live in a place that's, lead ridden in our water and things of that nature, where people are desperate for clean water in places where we think it's afar off, but they could very well reside in Massachusetts.
Yep.
So it is all systemic. And I completely agree with what you said.
Well, thank you. It's mind blowing to me that you pull on one thread and it's all connected. And so anyway.
Looks like we've got several hands up at this point. Bill, I think you're next.
Yeah, I wanted to follow up on your comments about how you can support Black and minority-owned businesses. You talked about the grant that you got from the Celtics. Is there any way we could, or the select board could support some way to funnel money to businesses in Natick? Is that something the business community could do, or the government could do, or do you have any other thoughts or ideas on how we might duplicate or create a fund where we could support businesses, minority businesses in particular?
That's a great question, Bill. It's a great aim to do. I'll be honest with you, I don't know if this is something that the select board specifically can do, but there are resources. There are resources. I found this particular resource through a company that their whole purpose is helping entrepreneurs find additional funding. That's their whole purpose. And this particular grant, I'll just give you the history of it. The Boston Celtics are the Shamrock Foundation, which is the Celtics Foundation. The Shamrock Foundation in 2020 set aside $1 million for Black-owned businesses. And that grant was distributed in 3 different rounds to 12 businesses at a time, $25,000 a piece. And I happened to win in the first round. Was completely shocked. I had applied for so many grants that when they called me, I was like, what is this? I don't even remember what this is. And they surprised me with a basketball player on a Zoom. They're like, Kristen, it was very cool. I was on Zoom and they said, we need to ask you some additional questions about your application. So I'm like, okay, I'm ready to answer. And then they said, you know what? Actually, you won the grant. And they had this basketball player and surprised me. It was wonderful. And they did it to all the recipients. you know, there are companies and there are resources that are just dedicated to these things. And I think having the opportunity to pull them together and one, identify where they are. Identify, well, let me step back. Let me take a step back. Identify the need. Identify the need, and then identify, okay, if this is the need, where are the resources? Because they are there. They're there. And how do we now facilitate getting these resources to the people that need them? Whether they be micro lenders, grant funders, angel investors, there are a lot of opportunities. And I couldn't say it if I hadn't been a recipient, because I mean, they're not always easy to come by, but they are there. And so I believe that we can work with our business community to make sure that we are a repository and a facilitator for those resources, and that we are getting them to the right people.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thanks.
Bill.
Thanks. Martin, you're up next.
Yeah, hi. Hi, Kristen.
Hi,
I'm
Martin.
gonna get at some point, I'm gonna get in a question about open space, because that's kind of my thing. But right now, I'm gonna carry on more of what we've been talking about, the kind of theme, one of which has been affordable housing. And among other things, I was on the 5 Auburn Street RFP committee. And we saw that as a good chance to, possibly get some affordable housing, and we got some proposals. So I'm not sure if that decision is going to be made before you get on the board, if you do, hopefully, or after. But I was just wanting to know your thoughts on that. And then this has evolved into a 2-part question as I've mulled it over, which is the second part is, as new housing is going up in Natick, do you have any ideas on how to make sure that a large part of that is not, if not officially affordable, at least something short of mega mansion, something that is within the reach of more working people?
Mm-hmm. So thank you so much for that question, Martin. The first one about the RFPs for the 5 Auburn Street. I am really excited. I've been watching those proposals, and I'm very excited for a couple, all of them, but 2 in particular. The senior living proposal, I'm excited about that one, because I have been told that there is a wait list for senior housing. And so, with that being the case, it's important to prioritize all of our most vulnerable populations, and anyone seeking an affordable housing, for what we know it to be, or low income housing, is a part of our vulnerable population. I mean, we all are in some way, shape, or form. I like to say that my word this season is fragile. We are all fragile in some way, shape, or form. Economic, health, sociological, we're just kind of more fragile than I believe we are normally. But I am excited for that proposal, and then a proposal that I believe the Affordable Trust put forth. And so I know that it's important to see what's most reasonable, what's best for the neighborhood, and then also what's going to be best long term. What are we going to see in long term, and will it make a good enough impact in the housing stock and the affordable housing stock that we need? So I'm interested to see the deliberations from that, and very interested in increasing our affordable housing stock. The second question you had, Martin, forgive me, would you mind repeating that?
Yeah, it was as new housing is going up, it tends to mostly be multi-unit housing. How do you see the possibility of making more of that lower, if not affordable, at least something that is more affordable than the multi-million-dollar type of stuff?
Mm-hmm. The first thing I would want to make sure is that we are aligned with whatever state regulations there are. If we are by law required to have a affordable housing section, or not section like a neighborhood, but a portion of the multi-unit housing that goes up, if their portion of that is required to be affordable housing, then by all means, we will be in line with what the laws are. And then separately, I think a plan, the plan for rezoning. The select board has several plans for rezoning on the table that they seem very interested in, and I would support the mixed use housing, the housing for residences as well as businesses. And I think to be discerning about the type of developers or the type of developments that we have coming in that preserves the ability to have a house that is not, a mega mansion, but to continue to prioritize both, houses that are, as you would say, more for the working class, and then, homes that reflect, I think, where the market is going, so that we attract those people too, because on one level, we need to have affordable housing, but then there is another sect of people who are attracted to Natick, and they may find a bigger house here that's actually more affordable than even next door in Needham, but they're still, thinking that they want to have a larger home here. So I think that is where the pie is, making sure that in that pie, we prioritize economic diversity, which means affordable housing. And then separately preserving the ability for the working class to come to Natick. And then also knowing that there are people there's new wealth and greater wealth that wants to find its way to Natick. And I believe that in order to thrive, we need to be able to do all of the above.
Thank you for that answer, Kristen.
Thank you,
Tom,
Martin.
I see you've got your hand up.
Hi,
Hi,
I got
Tom.
I got two questions.
Okay.
The first one is, have you talked to Pam and Dave at Chocolate Therapy in Framingham?
Can you say that one more time, Tom?
Have you talked to Pam and Dave who own Chocolate Therapy in Framingham?
They are great friends. Pam and Dave are wonderful friends. I had the privilege of, I was the director of photography for a PSA last summer that was spearheaded by their church, Reverend Lloyd, and at I think it's Greater Framingham Congregational Church, and they were a part of that. And then we have since become tremendous friends. I won't go into all the details. My brother works in Hollywood. Pam and their daughter is a Hollywood actress, and so we've put my brother together with her daughter to help each other out in Hollywood. So yes, Pam she's a good friend.
Yeah, great. The reason I asked that question is they're very successful business. They're very nice people, and it would be a great resource to say, all right, how do I get a Black-owned business going in Natick that is kind of like what they went through and how they became successful? It might be useful to find out how they did it going forward.
You are absolutely right.
Yeah,
you're absolutely right. I mean, they've been in their location for 10 years in Framingham. So they are experts about how to own a brick and mortar, sustainable niche business. You're absolutely right.
Yeah. For people who have never been there, the chocolate's unbelievable. And I'm a chocoholic. Second thing,
another small fact, I'm allergic to chocolate.
Oh,
so
God.
I love Pam, but I'm deeply allergic to chocolate, so I can't have any of it, but we're great friends.
Good. The second question is, have you been on econyatick.org? Have you ever been on there?
I have been on the site, yes.
Okay. Well, so what do you think about Debbie Marion, who is in charge of that? And I know Debbie personally, and so does Rick. What do you think about her efforts going forward and trying to make Natick more greener?
I believe that her efforts are admirable because that is a necessary piece, is making Natick more sustainable. And so those efforts are necessary, they're needed. I support that, I think that most days when I get up, while I'm in the present, I'm thinking about Natick's future because I send a little girl to kindergarten every day. So I'm always thinking about what is the future that she's going to inherit. What are we passing down to her? So I am very interested in what Debbie is doing with Echo Natick.
And
Okay,
of
thank you.
course, I think I put in the announcement for this week's session. Echo Natick is holding their own select board candidate forum coming up next month, I believe. So they will certainly be focusing on a lot of environmental issues there. Cool. Pat, you've got your hand up again.
Yes, quick question for you, Kristen, and maybe for Ricky and people who have a lot of knowledge about affordable housing. The smart growth you're talking about, the mixed development, is there a state requirement for the, like let's say the residential over retail, that the residential has to be, like 10% affordable, or is there any, I don't think I understand the rules on it too well.
I would love to call upon an expert voice on that. I don't know the state regulation, what it is exactly, but I know that there is some requirement that we have affordable housing. I'm just not sure what the exact percentage of that is.
I see we have both Catherine and Bruce Evans. We've got two sitting select board members present. Catherine or Bruce, either of you have information about that? They may both be away from, oh, yes, Bruce.
Yes. Sorry, I had to reach for my unmute button, which I couldn't find because it's behind a couple windows. It is 10%, and what it means is you have to have affordable housing at 80% of the average income in that particular town, as measured by the census. So Natick right now is just over the 10% threshold, but it's always, as I think Martin said earlier, one of the things that's challenging is as you put up more large houses without any affordable units, that makes that go closer to 10%. So the challenge is, and the planning board has addressed this through a couple zoning articles. One's called the inclusionary zoning article, which says for multifamily developments, a certain proportion of those have to be affordable units, and the affordable units can't be, this tiny little shack kind of things. They have to be comparable units with comparable features. Another one is when they build a subdivision, let's say, and they aren't building multifamily units, they have to contribute a fund or to the Affordable Housing Trust Fund. So there are a number of different ways that we're trying to move or to increase the stock of affordable housing. So it's just a question of tapping into those. The other piece that that was talked about earlier was some of the opportunities to put in more affordable housing, such as 5 Warburn Street, such as in West Natick, close to the West Natick train station. Those are all going to be assessed, and figure out, is this the right place and the right location to do those sorts of things. So this is definitely actively on the radar of the current board, and we'll welcome others' support of it as we move forward.
Thank you for that. Good intel, Bruce. Kristen, any comments on anything that Bruce has just said? Or?
No, just that I appreciate you, Bruce, for sharing that, and separately, I would support that.
Good, thank you. Martin's got his hands up, although Catherine also does. And Catherine, had you wanted to add to this particular thread of the conversation?
Just quickly about affordable housing. One of the challenges that we have with the inclusion with one of the programs that Bruce had mentioned is when, you know, a development goes up and a developer pays a percentage of the cost of the development to the Affordable Housing Trust. And it's commonly called payment in lieu of. When we get $200,000, the Affordable Housing Trust receives $200,000 for a $2 million project. We can't do anything with $200,000. You can't build affordable housing with that. You can't buy land for that. You can't even buy a tear down in Natick to tear down and build. One of the things that the trust is you know, one of the things that we would like to see more of is actually requiring the builder to build as part of that multi-unit units there. And sometimes that does happen. South Natick Hills is a good example of that. But the town has only funded 2 units in 40 years. So all of the affordable housing that's been built to keep us above that 10% threshold have been funded by developers as they build housing. So what we have is, you know, we have a commitment in the Natick 2030 plus master plan to create affordable housing, but we've only created 2 town funded units in 40 years. And I just wanted to leave you with that.
Interesting data point.
Thank you, Catherine.
Let's circle back to Martin and his question.
Yeah, I'm going to sort of ease into my open space role, but I think I'm going to ease into it gradually, because the first part of the question has to do with the Community Preservation Act, which actually is set up to help with affordable housing as well as open space, as well as historic preservation. And Catherine, again, can correct me if I'm wrong, but the current plan is that a bylaw will be proposed for the current town meeting to set up a CPA committee that will sort of mull over the proposals of how the community preservation funds are going to be used and allocate those funds among the best projects. And the current plan is the five people representing various committees representing the different interests, plus 4 at-large seats. And again, Catherine, correct me if there's any change, but I believe that's the plan. So I guess as a select board member, you'll have the responsibility of choosing the at-large seats and to try to make them representative and to be the best people at filling all those diverse needs that act is supposed to do. So I just want your thoughts on that. And then I'm sorry to do another 2-part question, but the select board has actually become more important as far as promoting certain open space purchases. So the Conservation Commission used to have an open space fund, which it had sole responsibility for, but that's now moved over to what's called the FAR, Bonus Stabilization Fund, which is a mouthful. But it's basically the old open space fund, and it can be used only for open space purchases. But in choosing the open space worthy of purchase, there's obviously more things we'd like to buy than we can buy. The select board has a key role in proposing purchases to town meeting. So I'm sort of curious as to your thoughts about what would be priorities for open space purchases in terms of what's needed in the town. So I hope you got both of those parts, but I can repeat them.
I was going to say, only as long as you don't mind repeating maybe the second question, Martin, but I'm gonna tap into the first one, which is about the at-large membership on the committee. So I think that is a phenomenal opportunity to dig into what are we solving for? I always try to look at what are we solving for, and then who needs to be there to solve this issue or to facilitate this issue. And by that, the only way I think you can do that well is to have a diverse viewpoint into it. So in terms of the committee, it's, we're solving for a funding around affordable housing, the open spaces. Who is this going to impact for how, and into the future? Who's it impacting now? Who's it impacting in the future? Who do we want to benefit from this? Are questions that I would ask first, and then think through the people that need to be a part of it. We have such we have a great eager base of people who want to serve, clearly. And just in looking in this group and hearing this group, there's so many people who are eager to serve and want to serve. And then I think there's people who need to be not pushed, but brought to the table and said, listen, this would be a great opportunity for you to be a part of because of X. I think that needs to happen also, so that we, in most places, I think what is it, 20% of the people do 80% of the work. And I think we find that in Natick as well. And so, but empowering people to come to the table is hugely is important. And so, but I think there's a battery of questions. There is a process to getting there, a thorough process to getting to having a diverse perspectives at the table on this particular committee. I would want to run through this process to make sure that those people were represented on the committee. So that to the first question. The second question is, I believe, if I could sum it all up, is it the spaces that we would prioritize, Martin? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, basically, yes.
Okay. So I know that sometimes it's concerning when we're building so much and we have such wonderful resources, the lake and acres and acres of land, and we have farmland. I'm not a person who just wants to build for the sake of building. I believe that conserving and preserving our open spaces is deeply important to preserving the land, to preserving the aesthetic of Natick, and because building for the sake of building means that there are other systemic things that we'll have to consider in terms of population, businesses, services that will be needed to address the population. And some of this is going to happen over time. So I would prioritize open spaces that allow for, let's say, the things that Eco-Natick has talked about, that our sustainability professional or sustainability expert, Jillian, the plans that she has working with her to determine along the lines of the 2030 plan, the 2050 plan, where do we see Natick at its best? Sorry, I lost your face, Martin. Where do we see Natick at its best? And then how, from there, do we prioritize what space is going to best serve where we want to go, where we're headed? So I won't say exactly what space, but I believe that there is partnering with her, getting that expert information from looking at our plans, our 2030 or 2050 plans, and saying, if this is where we're headed, then these are the types of open spaces we need to prioritize, making sure that we can serve.
Thanks for that, Kristen. I'd like to turn the topic a little bit, or to a new one. Your comments, Kristen, about in some cases reaching out to make sure that we have a diversity of viewpoints reminded me of all of the effort that had gone into the study of the Charles River Dam situation, and then all of the select board's work in evaluating that report and having additional public input on it and so forth. And I'm just interested in your perspective as to, what kind of a grade would you give the select board on their work so far? Clearly, it's far from over. There's all kinds of additional assessments. And Paul Joseph, at least, has certainly signaled that the ultimate decision could still go either way based on continuing new data input. But just what's your approach to that whole thing? How have we done so far? What do we need to focus on in the future?
I have to be honest. I believe that so far we've done a great job. I believe we've done a great job because I've read through how much time and effort volunteers have given to this matter. The people that we've brought in to the matter, the experts, the native tribes that we have included in this process, and then all of the community outreach, the community forums. I believe that we have done a really great job at making this as best as I believe the town can, an inclusive process. And to do its research, to examine the history and examine the future about what this would mean for our future. And so I believe in process. As a journalist, objectivity is your integrity. Like getting all sides. You never turn in a story with one interview, or with one voice. Because how can you make a decision based off of one person's perspective? You got to go get more. And more is not for the sake of just having more voices. It's for the sake of examining our own biases, our own prejudices, our own blocks that say, I'm not an expert on the dam, but there is someone who is. Now, I may live over there, or maybe I'm a part of the tribe. I'm just saying this generally. And so there are these perspectives that need to be brought to the table and brought in. And I believe that a great job has been done on that so far.
Maybe just one follow-up to that, and then we'll go to Carrie, who's got his hand up. One of the things, so like pretty much everybody on this group, I think we all followed that issue, participated in the committees. Well, Martin was in fact on the study committee, and we're just kind of flabbergasted by folks very late in the process saying, what's going on with this? This is the first I've heard of this. I know we now have, is it a communications director? Is that the name of our new position?
Yeah.
That person has got quite the challenge ahead of them. Do you have any thoughts about how the select board might work with that position, or just how in general to make any progress on this issue, that no matter how much work you do communicating, there's going to be constituencies that just don't feel informed?
I have big thoughts on that, Doug. Big thoughts.
I would guess you would, given your professional work.
I have big thoughts on that. As a communicator, it's not, if a tree falls in a forest and nobody heard it, did the tree fall? And I don't mean to be flippant in any way. I mean that to say, if people are uninformed, there's got to be accountability somewhere. And I think the accountability oftentimes rests with the person who's distributing the information, to get it to the person and to make sure that it is as Sarah said, synthesized in a way that can be understood. I'll be honest, I just found out that there was a paper, that we had a paper that shared and summarized like what happened at the select board, what happened at the meeting, and we don't have that. I'm a newsletter junkie. So if Coffee with a Purpose has a newsletter, go ahead and put me on it. I love newsletters. I read all of them. I respond to all of them. I respond to newsletters. I just love them because that's how you stay informed. But the newsletter, that's an opportunity. Right? We can't force people to opt into it, but through channels, we can get information to people. Right now, the requirement is you go to our website, go to our town website, which thank goodness is going to be worked on, I think, with the communications director. Go to our website and really dig to have to find agendas and meetings and things of that nature. And and then you have Natick Talks. everyone doesn't communicate like that. Like that's not a public forum. It's not an official forum. And so while it's fine, and you know, there's like 7,000 people or so who are on it, there's 37,000 people in town. That means that there's just a slice of people who even reside there. So when asked what's one thing that like I would change, not one thing that the town has to prioritize, different from that, but one thing that I would like jump on is the communications piece. How are we communication? Because if outreach is going to be a priority, which I think it needs to be, then communication is key.
Okay, thank you. Thanks. Carrie, back to you.
Hi, Kristen. Thank you. And I certainly like what you've had to share today, and that you pointed out that Ricky is a trailblazer. She certainly was. As I mentioned, in my intro, I'm a concerned environmentalist, in addition to being a co-founder of Renewable Natick, which in 8 short months to the day, along with the help of Bill Ramage, who I should add is a big part of Eco Natick, along with Debbie Marion. Well, Bill and several others, not necessarily here today, helped to first draft a resolution and heavily promote it, that town meeting members overwhelmingly supported to move the town to 100% renewable energy. I think that resolution could be considered the blueprint that Jillian Wilson Martin and the Sustainability Committee are using to get the town to that 100% renewable energy. I was appointed to this by the select board, excuse me, to the Sustainability Committee to be sort of the liaison between Renewable Natick and the Sustainability Committee. And for better or for worse, we came to find out that the Renewable Natick was more of a campaign, if you will, than really a bona fide organization. And there was not a lot of liaison to do between the two groups. So I decided to just serve the one term and get involved in other things here in Natick, like I'm treasurer for Pat's Keep Natick Beautiful, and working hard now to get for the first ever repair cafe in Natick. And I think it's finally going to happen. I got some good news last week. Yeah, from Rotary is looking to back us with the general liability insurance that we need, which was the biggest hurdle. So
congratulations.
So anyway, my question is, if you are selected to the board, elected to the select board, and I think it'd be great to have another trailblazer on that committee. What efforts would you make in as detail as possible to help the town move to that lofty goal of 100% renewable energy by 2030?
Mm-hmm. Thank you so much for this question, Carrie. So one of the things I know that Jillian is doing extremely well is partnering with towns that have already accomplished this. I think that is so smart, because if we haven't done it, then you need a blueprint of some sort. And there are towns that are similar to ours, you know, not Natick, but have similarities that we can learn from, and that we can partner with to use resources, to gather information, to potentially partner on committees, crosstown committees. Like I know we do that with the on the FinCom with the education remap. That's not just a Natick committee, that is a committee that spans other communities. And I think the same goes with the renewable energy committee, the effort is to partner with other towns who have already been able to accomplish this successfully, knowing that you can't, lay our town right on top of another because we have characteristics that are different, but use those resources to begin to walk towards that goal happening.
I know that the budget is certainly one of the things you pointed out as one of the biggest concerns the town has, and we've been making a big effort we had tables set out on the common at the farmers market to try and get people to sign up for 100% renewable energy, class 1 energy, which is, wind and solar here. And there's all these municipal buildings. I don't think the town has really taken a step to do the same thing. Yes, it would cost more money, but what a signal it would really make to the rest of the community if the town was, getting 100% of their electricity through class 1 renewables.
I do. I hear you, Carrie. And one of the things that I think about that is I believe in phased approaches that don't overwhelm, but are committed to the process. And I say that because, I mean, there are a number of things that, like this, are urgent and need to get done, but we have to make sure that our system infrastructure is not overwhelmed, kind of like an electric building. Like if you put, you overwhelm it, you got a worse problem than if you used a phased approach to say, this is how we're going to go in there. And maybe we put together a plan that says, listen, by 2030, this is what the goal is. And so we've got to take these steps to get there, and not overwhelm our system, but we are committed to this process continuously, keeping in mind that there are elements outside of our control that change. But we're committed to this process. And that's another reason why I believe that partnering with these other towns is important, because then you have an invested process and maybe shareable resources to accomplish the goal. I hope that answered your question, Carrie.
I like that measured approach. It always seems like it takes too long though, but I completely understand what you're saying. So thank you. And I hope you can be a driving force in helping us meet that goal, because there is no tomorrow.
That's for sure. Thanks, Carrie. Brinley, you've got your hand up.
Hi, yeah, I just, as is my way, since I noticed the time and where we're getting, I just want to bring up, since we're recording and I know people are going to spread this around, I just want to bring up the reminder that there is no vote by mail ballots being sent out this time. And for everyone listening and anybody that needs to know, the last day to register to vote is Saturday, March 18th. So that you, just in case, so that everybody knows, because if you don't do that, and I don't have in front of me what the reminder is for the last day to ask for an absentee ballot, but my guess is it's coming up pretty soon as well. And so if you're not able to make it to the polls, please apply for your absentee ballot so that you can vote and be counted. And thank you.
Thank you, Brinley.
Yeah, thanks very much for that public service announcement. I'll try to remember to capture that information in one of our next emails. I also want to bring to people's attention. Well, first off, Kristen, I want to thank you so much for spending so much time with us. Martin and I were talking about all of the candidate forums that the town is hosting. There are a couple that Eco-Natick is hosting. There's one that Yes for Natick is hosting coming up. Was it the Democratic Town Committee just held theirs? But I think we like to hold, I'm sorry, maybe I get that wrong, but we kind of like to hold ours up as special because we don't have to share the candidates, at least for select board. It's been really valuable to us, and I hope to you to be able to kind of have the floor all to yourself instead of have to have four candidates answer every single question. Do you have parting comments or kind of closing things, thoughts that you'd like to leave us with before we finish today?
I just want to be mindful.
Yes, Ricky's got her hand up.
Yep, her hand up. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, go ahead, Ricky. Just got to go off mute. It's the second time, Kristen, you've been more attentive to the audience than I have. So feel free to take over the moderator. Might have to call Jada. Yeah, he's still on mute, Ricky. Gotta find that mute button.
Up at the top right, Ricky. Top right.
I think it depends on what device it is, but.
Or it could be bottom. Yeah, it could be bottom left. There you go.
Okay,
there we go. All right.
Okay, in line with that suggestion that Brinley just made about how long you have to register to vote, any of you who have connections with teenagers, and we should be in touch with the Natick High Political Club, that in the intervening couple of weeks, that they make every effort to get the 17-year-olds or those who are seniors and ready to vote to register because they have that option, and it's the right foot to start them on, especially with what's happening on a national level. You want them to make that connection that voting on the local level is what affects you the most, but voting on a federal level is what is the veto power on many of the issues that matter to you locally. So it's very important to get them started on the right foot, and anything that we can do through neighbors that you know who have seniors in high school, or your own grandchildren, or whatever, make that push and see what we can generate in the way of new voters. That's the right step that they have to get on. Let me just say that this is the first time that I've heard you, Chris, and I'm very impressed. And I wish you the very best of luck. I think we're very fortunate that you're willing in your busy time to make time to have your voice be heard, to represent women, to represent women of color, and to broaden our perspective and to give us the benefit of your time. Again, I think this is a wonderful group. I'm glad you've come, and I hope that you will join us on a regular basis. My one other suggestion is you put your finger on something very important in terms of communication. And it is the fact that the local papers are no longer local. They do not cover, unless there's something, if you got a rail spill on, God forbid, on our rail track, they'll cover it. But they don't cover the towns the way they used to. And I would like to see a really dynamic effort on the part of the board to get the Middlesex News to cover the town. I think we should make some effort to have those people who are in the readership have some way of knowing what's happening in Natick. We used to have a reporter who was dedicated to Natick, and they sent her off to some other towns where she had absolutely no grounding. And I think that local coverage would be great. And if you want to start a new business, start a new paper in Natick. So there, I've said all I'm going to say. But again, thank you for putting yourself out there. It's crucial. And women do serve a real purpose on boards, because their perspective, as I found out, is you're coming from a slightly different place, and it makes a difference. So welcome aboard.
Thank you, Ricky. Thank you so much for that. And as a woman who spent 10 years as a local reporter, I agree with you. I agree with you. Once upon a time, news was local, and it meant something to cover your community. I have covered communities in Texas, New York, New Hampshire, and Massachusetts. And it has always been a privilege to know the people that I was covering, and to know that community, to get to know that community through work. So I am with you 150% and want to see a local angle to Natick. And as a part of the communications, I'm sure working with the communications director, that's going to be a big one, is getting our town covered.
And if you're able to offer it to the Middlesex News as an outreach from the town and generate interest in that, I think that would be a mammoth contribution to this town. Mammoth.
Thank you for that, Ricky. Bradley, did you want to jump in with some additional information, or?
Who, me?
No, Brindley had her hand up again.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah.
I did. I just, Ricky, my love is just like yours. I just wanted to add that I've recently learned since our son turned 16 that when you go to apply for your learner's permit, you can actually check a box right away to be registered to vote as soon as you turn 18. So we can actually start really early. So I have been working now on getting the word out to parents in our community to know that their kids can register. They can pre-check the box to register automatically already because they've got a driver's license. They will be automatically registered when they turn 18. As another output there, another outreach.
Yeah, I need to butt in on this. Just as a precaution, because I have worked as a warden for the last many years in the town as an election official. And Diane Packer, the town clerk, has a big gripe with the registry that they do not follow through on the registrations. They claim that you can register through them, but she's found that in many cases, the word takes a long time and that maybe never gets back to her that people are trying to register. So she would, speaking on her behalf, if I can, she would strongly urge people, if they do register through the registry to vote, to check in with the town clerk a bit later and make sure that they're actually listed, because in many cases they may not be.
Oh, Martin, thank you so much for that feedback, because
yeah,
Okay,
that's really
that's-
sad that
that's really important feedback.
It's really, really disappointing when people come to the polls, they say they have registered through the registry and they're not on the list, and there's nothing we can do at that point. So sorry about that.
That's
Thank
good,
you for that
good
feedback.
intel. Let me just swing back to you, Kristen, one more time. I was trying to give you the floor for any closing comments, and then we had some important breaking news. So.
No, this is all important. This is all important. And it's a big part of my background. I have someone, thankfully, on my team who is helping me navigate the youth vote and helping us to stay on the pulse of the spring break that's coming up. He's 21 years old, went to Natick High School, is a substitute teacher at, I believe, at Framingham State. And so he is helping us to make sure that we are capitalizing and capturing the moment, not missing the opportunity of the spring break that's coming up and getting the young people registered. So that is a priority of mine. I want to say thank you. Thank you to each of you for taking the time to spend with me, for allowing me to come to your forum, to your safe space, where you talk and you come together and you just love on our town, love on each other and love on our town. Your group is phenomenal. It was so warm and so welcoming. So thank you so much for having me. I appreciate all that you do. Again, my family is truly the beneficiary of all of your hard work, and we are appreciative. And so we are grateful to serve the town, want to deepen our service to the town. And I humbly ask for one of your 2 votes on March 28th. And if you feel compelled to, please share that with your friends, share that with your groups. And I look forward to hopefully to serving on the select board on May 29th. So thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much for that, Kristen.
There's probably something in the chat box to you if you want to take a peek.
What's that?
Oh, is it just, I want to say something to Kristen.
Oh,
it's up to the chat too.
Right, yeah, directing her to the chat box. Yeah. So like I was mentioning before, we do have a couple more candidate forums coming up in town. I believe the next one is March 7th. Eco Natick is doing the select board candidates. And then next Monday for our group, we will be meeting Kat Monahan, who's one of the other candidates for select board. So thank you again for joining us, and good luck with the rest of the day and the week.